Get ready. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Craig Bailey Show. Not just a radio show, but an institution.
Yes, so welcome then to the Craig Bailey Show. This is podcast episode number 1. Today then we're taking a look back at the first 100 days of a person that could potentially be or become, if not already, the most controversial president of the United States of America since I was born. And probably, if you've got grandmas or great-grandmas, or you've tracked your family tree back to 1913, potentially since then as well. The man that in his first 100 days has made so many claims that you'd think this guy had a crystal ball to see into the future. The man that inside the first 100 days has moved his warships closer to Kim Jong-un and North Korea's waters. However, on the other hand, the man that seems completely obsessed with social media and believes that his foreign policy should revert back to sending a tweet to North Korea saying bad, very bad. The next thing will be a naughty step for Kim Jong-un to sit on. Or could it be what many people fear? And that's Donald J. Trump launching cruise missiles from the ship just south of North Korean waters. Whatever you think, it's been an interesting first 100 days that the legend, the cynic, the controversial, the womanizer. I mean, there's many words you could potentially use to describe what Donald J. Trump has been known as. Many of them, do you know what, may not be true. What we can do is judge him on his first 100 days in charge of the most powerful country in the world, maybe just left of Vladimir Putin and Russia. Donald J. Trump has been in charge of the United States of America, sitting behind a desk in the Oval Office since the Americans elected him and Hillary Clinton was somewhat sent into oblivion, even though she won the popular vote. So just to emphasize that for people that don't really understand American politics, yes, Donald J. Trump was elected even without receiving the most votes from the American people. Needless to say, it's rather pointless to look at how it works, and the UK electoral system has things to answer for itself, so who are we to criticise the American political system that is, in many ways, better than what ours is? However, the first 100 days are known as being the most important 100 days for a president. It sets the scene, it outlays the policies, it outlays the arguments that you want to bring to Congress and the laws that you potentially want to pass. However, Donald J. Trump has gone about this a completely different way, signing over 36 orders, with not many of them particularly getting anywhere. We all remember when he signed the executive order to ban people from travelling to the country from what seemed to be just Muslim states, even though if you listen to Donald Trump, he'll tell you that it wasn't against Muslims. Must never have done geography at school to have learnt where the Muslims are based. However, it didn't get through because the Court of Appeal ruled against it and he never challenged it. So what were the other promises that Donald J. Trump made? And how does his claim of Donald J. Trump, the president, having the most successful first 100 days in office since anybody can remember? Well, they don't, really. Should we start with number 1? And this is of interest for anybody that lives in Washington, D.C. Donald J. Trump and the White House made a strange promise, and it was regarding violent crime and homicides. So the President of the United States of America suggests, and who are we to disbelieve him, that homicides are down since he took to the Oval Office. That already inside the first 100 days he's made a major impact into places like Washington, D.C. The Trump administration is committed to reducing violent crime. In 2015, homicides increased by 17% in America's 50 largest cities. That's the largest increase in 25 years. In our nation's capital, killings have risen by 50%. Well, it's untrue. Because if you dig into the actual stats and don't twist them to read to suit the argument, well, the facts are pretty clear. The Metropolitan Police Department in DC say there were 105 homicides in 2014, which increased to 162 in 2015, which was a 52% increase. The figure for 2016 was 135, a 17% increase on Obama's administration in 2015. And the crime rate in DC has tumbled in the last 20 years and is now 55% lower than it was in 1997. And, listen to this, it's now significantly lower than it was in 2008, the year before Barack Obama took office. Well, it doesn't really stack up very well, does it? The second one, the shortest one that's on my list, that's Donald Trump made the claim that it stopped raining for his inaugural address. It stopped raining. Donald J. Trump acting as God, and when he speaks, it stops raining. The crowd was unbelievable today. I looked at the rain. It just never come. You know, we finished the speech, went inside, it poured, then we came outside. The helicopter scene was an incredible scene, and then amazingly, it rained like God was looking down on us. That's crap, because it rained during Donald J. Trump's inaugural speech. It's not a great start to the countdown, really, is it? Day 2, January 21st. Fact number 3. The media invented my feud with the intelligence community. It's a claim made during a visit to the CIA's headquarters in Langley, Virginia, a place that is prone to supporting Donald J. Trump. He says, I have a running war with the media. They are among the most dishonest human beings on earth. Really? Rubbish. Untrue. Well, the actual reports of Donald Trump's feud with the intelligence community was sparked, it wasn't by the media speculation, but by many factors. Actually, no. A tweet from the man himself comparing the leaking of the Water Sportsgate memo, presumably by an intelligence agent, which he compared to Nazi Germany. And if you want the proof, the tweet's in black and white on Donald J. Trump's Twitter. Quote, intelligence agencies should have never allowed this fake news, Donald J. Trump's favourite word, fake news, which was sparked, by the way, by a CNN reporter in a press conference when he called the guy fake news, which ridiculously, I think the news reporter is claiming some sort of fame, because every time you hear him on telly, he refers to himself as a guy that was called fake news. Get over it, man. Intelligence agencies should have never allowed this fake news to leak into the public. One last shot at me. Are we living in Nazi Germany? He sent 12:48 p.m. on the 11th of January 2017. Number 3 in your first 100 days in office of your broken promises is just that. It's a promise that was a lie that turned out to be you, where it came from, and not the media. Although it is true to say that CNN have a completely different take on the Democrats and Republicans than Fox News does. Number 4, let's do number 4, shall we? This is quite an interesting one. This is more of a humorous one, a find your feet sort of fact. Number 4, I have the all-time record for Time magazine covers, which is a nice claim from a man that's ego is as big as Southern Africa. It's a claim made during the same CIA visit. He says, we have all-time record in the history of Time magazine. I've been on it 15 times this year. You haven't, Donald, have you? Donald Trump has been on the cover of Time magazine a total of 11 times. Like, ever. That is it. 11 times ever in the history of mankind. Since the dinosaurs. Even before Melania Trump had her first face operation. Never. Ever. Before then. Just 11 times in its entirety. That's it. The actual all-time record, for anybody that has any interest or would like to do your research, I'll save you the job on it, is actually Richard Nixon, who was on it more than 55 times. For comparison, Hillary Clinton has been on the cover of Time magazine 22 times, which is 11 times more than the man that's claiming to have been on it more than anybody else ever. Number 5 is quite a good one. It's quite a fun one. It's one of them that when you heard him say on TV, you knew when you looked at them photos that Donald J. Trump was talking bollocks, didn't you? Number 5, the crowd stretched all the way back to the Washington Monument, he said on his inaugural day. Remember that? He was stood there saying, I, Donald J. Trump, accept the responsibility along with Ivanka, Freddie, Toto and Africa to be the President of the United States of America. And he said the crowd stretched all the way back to the Washington Monument. We must have been watching a different episode. We must have been on +1. 1.5 million people, he claimed, that was there in the day. But there wasn't, was there? All the way back to the Washington Monument was packed, he said. Well, there wasn't, because the photos are quite obvious, really. I'm sat looking at a photo from the top. It was taken on the top of the Washington Monument at 12:01 p.m. local time. That's American time. That's Washington time. Sean Spicer, working with Donald J. Trump, is the press man. He's the guy that you see on telly every single day doing a speech from the White House that's already made an unbelievable gaffe. He said, this was the largest audience to ever witness an inauguration period, both in person and around the globe. I looked out, the field was, it looked like 1 million, 1.5 million people. Well, Spicer later sort of backed down on it and accepted in person the claim wasn't actually true. Really? You know, the funny thing is regarding the inauguration, there's probably many stats that you can find that are absolutely bobbins. Things like this. Nielsen said 30.6 million people watched the coverage in the US, 7 million fewer than watched Obama's 2009 ceremony. For... yeah. The record is held by Ronald Reagan, who attracted 41.8 million TV viewers in 1981. Just bobbins. Absolute nonsense. Number 7. Trump's inauguration was the first to use floor covering, Spicer claimed. This is Sean Spicer. Once again, the guy that's been given the role was speaking to the media with the true facts every single morning in a press briefing at the White House. This was the first time in our nation's history that floor coverings have been used to protect the grass on the mall. That had the effect of highlighting any areas where people were not standing. Yes, it was a bad decision, really, Spicer, wasn't it? Because all you could see were white floor coverings where no bugger was stood. In fact, it's untrue, because they were used in the 2013 inauguration. You just couldn't see them because there were so many more thousands and thousands of people, which backs up my claim, and everybody else's claim, that your claim is fabricated. Number 8. Trump's inauguration was the first time fencing and magnetometers went as far back as the mall. Wrong. I think Sean Spicer may have been getting them mixed up with previous inaugurations, just like Obama's, where they were used. So far, not so good for Donald J. Trump. 8 down, 8 untrue. Believe me, I'm searching for one that is true. I just can't find one at the minute. Number 9. More people used the DC Metro for Trump's inauguration than for Obama's or the former President Barack Obama. He likes to compare everything to Obama's, which is probably not the greatest idea if you're Donald Trump or Sean Spicer. Spicer claimed, we know that 420,000 people used the DC Metro public transit yesterday, which actually compares to, and check this out because we've got a stat on this, 317,000 that used it for President Obama's last inaugural. Well, it's rubbish. It's untrue. The actual stats, if you dig around on the internet to find them, is there were 783,000 trips on the Metro on Obama's inauguration day. And we've not even got to the 4th of January 2017. And so far, out of 9 statements that either Sean Spicer or Donald J. Trump have said, bear in mind they were elected on, amongst other things, for their honesty, well, they're all untrue so far. So we'll keep digging. Number 10, this is. Donald J. Trump claims, I have received awards on the environment. I'm a very big person when it comes to the environment. Who would have ever known? The Trump being a man that cares about greenery. I've won awards on the environment, but some of the stuff makes it impossible to get anything built. Not true. The White House say he was referring to an award mentioned in a book by Trump's former environmental consultant. Apparently the book references an award from the New Jersey Audubon. Really? I mean, you're digging deep to find this. For including a nature trail on, guess where? His golf course in Jersey. However, even after digging out this group that would have took you maybe a good day or so to actually search on the internet to find out what it is they did, well, they denied it anyway. And if you're starting to wonder how many of these facts there actually are, then there's a few. But don't worry, we'll get through some of them fairly quickly, just in case you were panicking a little bit. Or maybe you've got to get yourself off to the gym, so, bear with me. So let's get to number 11 then. 11's a controversial one, because it states by the President of the United States that millions of illegal votes swung the popular contest for Hillary. This reverts back to what we were saying right at the beginning of the start of the show, where we said that if you remember how President Trump got elected, well, it wasn't by receiving the most votes, because the popular vote went to Hillary. And this is a claim made to a meeting of congressional leaders, so an important meeting with people that are fairly high up. Between 3 million and 5 million, check this out, illegals, as Trump put it, illegals, voted in the election, which cost me the popular vote. It's false. It's not true. In fact, it was confirmed that it was untrue by Sean Spicer. That's President Trump's, if you forgot, press advisor. Number 12. I won one of the biggest electoral votes ever. Claim made on ABC, a tremendous victory. Bigly. Untrue, not true. 13. The author of the study about electoral fraud changed his tune. This is good. A claim made during the same interview regarding this author that wrote the book of the Pew Report cited in 2011, denying his work was evidence of voter fraud. Really? Then why did he write the report? Excuse me, then why did he write the report, according to Pew Report? Well, it's untrue. No surprise, number 14. There were 2 gun homicides in Chicago during Barack Obama's farewell speech. What a big statement to make regarding something that is on people's minds every single day because of the gun crime in America. So let's put a statement out there that is factually correct. There were 2 gun homicides in Chicago during Barack Obama's farewell speech. It was a claim made, but never broadcast on TV, but it was the same interview as the one regarding the Pew Report. Well, it's untrue. The Chicago Police Department say, check this out, nobody, not one single person was shot and killed in the city on January the 10th, that day, the same day Obama gave his farewell speech. Untrue. 15. Healthcare.gov costs how much money? $5 billion, according to the president. He said, remember the $5 billion website? He kept quoting it in his campaign trail. Remember the $5 billion website, we don't need it. Save the money, spend it elsewhere. Well, actually, healthcare.gov costs between $1 million and $2 billion, according to the independent analysis. Nowhere near, in fact, $3 billion off Trump's claims. And he's given nothing to back up what he's saying after he made the claims. untrue. 16. Voter fraud in Chicago and Philadelphia is getting worse. It's a claim made again during the same interview, but this time regarding voter fraud, and this time was broadcast. Chicago, look what's going on in Chicago. It's only getting worse. Look at Philadelphia. You look at what's going on in Philadelphia. What is going on in Philadelphia? Well, not a great deal is going on in Philadelphia, Donald, because, again, it's untrue. In fact, there is no evidence of significant voter fraud in either Chicago or Philadelphia. 17. The murder rate in Philadelphia is increasing. Now, this is a good stat to make, a good fact to point out to the American people, seeing as we've already established, one of Trump's key ingredients to winning this election was because he was going to reduce the crime rate and the gun rate and control murders. Right. It's a claim made in a speech to congressional Republicans. To Republicans, this is. He said, here in Philadelphia, the murder rate has been steady. I mean, just terribly increasing. Has been steady and then terribly increasing in the same sentence. Well, it's untrue anyway. The murder rate has been steadily and significantly declining in Philadelphia over the last decade, reduced from, and here's the numbers, from 397 in 2007, these are the stats, not the made-up numbers by the Trump, to 277 in 2016. The Philadelphia Inquirer, that's their local paper, reported last year that 2016 has seen fewer violent crimes than any year since 1979, which makes President Trump's claims seem just a little bit excessive. 18. Don't worry, we'll do two more. There's many more, but, you can look at the rest of the website. There's two more that we're going to say, just to, again, prove the point. The US knows nothing about the refugees we let in. Big claim, big claim. We hear it here in England. We have no idea who's entering the country. It's a big claim that's always made. So Trump says. It's a claim made in an interview with Fox's News' Sean Hannity. He said, we've taken in tens of thousands of people. We know nothing about them. They can say they vet them. They didn't vet them. They have no papers. How can you vet somebody when you don't know anything about them and you have no papers? It's got to be true, surely. Surely two left. It's true. It's false. It's just false. It's fake news, Trump. The process of applying for refugee status in the US is, well, it can take up to 18 months to complete. And yes, you've got to fill in forms. And yes, there's papers. It involves at least 2 background checks, extensive interviews with State Department and Department of Homeland Security, and full screening against the FBI, DHS and Defense Department databases. That's the true news. Less than 1% of requests for refugee status from the United Nations, which is the first step in the process, remember, are granted. Seems fairly tight to me. Let's go back to the 8th of January, 2017, shall we? Trump, when he visited Scotland. Remember this? Not a surprise that he visited Scotland to make a speech on a golf course that the golf course belonged to him. He said, I was in Scotland the day before Brexit and predicted it. Thank you. Well, thank you very much, because we needed you to predict that we were going to leave the EU. Wow. It's a claim made during a press conference to mark Theresa May's visit to the White House. You remember the uncomfortable press conference where they shook hands, and then later there was pictures and videos of Donald Trump holding Theresa May's hand and helping her down a flight of stairs. Beautiful. What a beautiful moment. He said, I happened to be in Scotland at Tunbury cutting a ribbon when Brexit happened, and we had a vast amount of press there, and I said, this was the day before, you probably remember, Brexit is going to happen. And I was scorned in the press for making that prediction. I was scorned. Lo and behold, the following day it happened, and the odds weren't looking good for me when I made that statement, because as you remember, everyone thought it wasn't going to happen. Well, this just sums it up. This could not possibly be true, because if you look at the date that Donald J. Trump arrived in Scotland, it was the day after the EU referendum on June the 24th, 2016. I thought I'd leave the best until last. Listen, there's so many more comments and statements that Donald Trump, the President of the United States of America, has made. So for me to state these on the first podcast, you'd be thinking, right, fair enough, that I'm completely against Donald Trump. Do you know what? Actually completely wrong. Because on the day of the American election, if I was an American voter, my vote would have gone to Donald Trump. Because of the way the establishment is in UK politics, I am someone that is completely against the way we run our country, from the way that it is run by party politics to the way that we have and will never change our electoral system, where it can only ever be a two-party competition. Don't agree with it. So I am definitely for someone that is absolutely all for change, someone that stands there and says exactly what they believe, and you listen to their comments and believe with passion that even if he's a bit of a dick, he's different to the establishment. My issue now is that it seems as though this is a guy that take away the persona, take away the picture that was painted of his celebrity lifestyle. And yes, he's a womanizer. Yes, he says things that are controversial. Yes, everybody knows that there's a fair chance that it was going to fail. If you strip it all back, this was a guy that was standing there on stages across the United States of America saying, what I say is what will happen. You can trust me when I say that I can make things happen, they will happen. And I'm different from the rest. So I was absolutely all for the United States of America giving Donald Trump the chance to be president of the United States. The issue is pretty clear. It seems as though everything that man has said has turned into nothing. Now let's not get confused. We all know how difficult it is to get anything passed through Congress, but also let's realise out of 36 executive orders that man has signed, he's failed to deliver any single change on Obamacare, which was the first thing he said he was going to repeal. He's now saying he started the process, which means nothing at all. It means that he's done nothing, because it's not possible to get anything passed by his own party, let alone taking it to the Hill. The fence, the wall, the big giant... He called it a fence last week, which was interesting. The fence, I thought you'd change your mind. It's a fence, not a wall. The wall he was going to build between the United States of America and Mexico. Nobody will pay for it. He won't pay for it. We shouldn't pay for it. Mexicans will pay for it. We won't pay for it. You're paying for it. I'm not paying for it. Again, no movement on anything. So here's one thing for you to think about if you're disagreeing with everything that I've said in the podcast. Tell me one thing that Donald J. Trump has managed to actually put in place since becoming President of the United States of America. And if you return on a tweet or a text message or an email and say, here's an example of an executive order that he signed, then the proof that you need to send is actually what has happened since he signed the executive orders. Because nothing is the answer to that. Absolutely nothing. The United States of America is sadly where we are at the minute. The United Kingdom and the United States share not just a special bond, but also status quo.